Hello, this is Matthew Chan.
And Wes Weaver.
And welcome to the new episode of the TurnKey Investor Show. And today we are going to talk about property management. More specifically, it's really a question that a lot of people want to know, especially beginning investors. Do you manage your own properties or do you not manage your properties? So Wes, let's start off with you. You currently manage properties for other people.
A few.
A few.
A few.
Okay. And why a few? By choice, or
it's
just you just haven't focused on it?
Well, it's definitely about choice, but for property management, it's not a fun business by any means, and you're not getting into the real estate business to manage property. I mean, that's not why you're watching these videos. I mean, you got it. You're into the real estate business because you like the long term assets of buying and holding. Well,
or cash flow,
or
all the other benefits, right? But it's certainly not for the job of management.
So that's your first view. Well, behind the scenes of that, someone has to manage these properties for the remaining of these years. So you have to decide whether it's going to be you or a property management company, and that's really a personal choice that only you can decide. No one can tell you whether you can do it. You may try it. You may say, well, I think I want to do it. And you can do it for a few years and then turn it over to a property management company. But for me, I manage my own properties first, and then I manage a few properties for a select few people second. I mean, I don't open up a property management company for any Joe Blow that says, hey, will you manage my property? Because it's very tough. I mean, number one, that I'm not just an open book real estate company to do that, so I don't have to accept any client that just comes in. But it's a very interesting dynamic that you're going to have between the owner and the property manager. Because the owner is going to be the one footing all the bills, paying all the expenses, and the property manager is the one doing all the work. So it's tough to find that marriage that works just right. So for me personally, I do it just for a few friends and family that have a few properties, that I do it for them.
Yeah, but you've also taken on some what I consider non-friends and family business. I mean, not a lot, But like I said, is it by choice, or do you think you'll ever expand into it? What are your thoughts? I know at one point we had a discussion.
At one point we talked about it, but the amount of work that goes involved with property management and the amount of money that's involved, unless you want to kind of do it on a big scale, for me it just really it's not really worth it. I mean, at the end of the day, I do what I do for me and us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, I can't really speak for, how, a large real estate company or a property management company. I mean, obviously they do it for a living, but they don't own the properties. I mean, I am clear about, the vision of my number one goal is to manage my own property. That doesn't mean that now the people who I manage it the exact same way I do mine. And that's a key thing that you may not find in a large property management company. And reality is they probably can't. But for me, holding on and making sure I keep close track of the properties that we own is the number one goal.
Now, I was taught about roughly 10 years ago, or thereabouts, that management, money follows management. And so I knew that I had to learn management. And it was something that I just had to get in there, learn the fine points, and you just really had to learn. It didn't matter whether I liked it or not, but I had to understand all aspects of it. So if you recall, when I came to Columbus, I made sure it was my business that I could get information, comps. I mean, this was way before you had I made sure I knew how to get, pricing. I knew how to go down to the courthouse, get the eviction. I did a lot of the research. Even though I was an out-of-towner. It got to the point where I knew more about how to do certain things than the people that were living here.
Right.
Because I made such a science out of it. And it was just like you said, it was not because of the fun of it. I felt like I needed to know as a manager.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons, just for the benefit of the viewers, that I sought out a partnership in you is that, and you already know this, is that I knew for the vision, I had, which was to have dozens of properties, that management wasn't going to become an issue, and that I wasn't going to be able to hire a person right away to do this. So I thought, I would get a partner, and the arrangement was I would do the administrative and legal stuff. You do the kind of the more mundane street-related stuff. then that's the way it was for many years. So so it was a win-win situation. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that when we say we manage, at least in my view, it didn't mean that I had to do every little thing. In this particular case, I was able to share the responsibilities with Wes. Now, you and I, we've taken it to a different level. We both have the same office manager in both of our offices. She part-time for both of us.
Right.
And Martha, so she is our office manager, and there are many things that we don't directly do, but it is under our umbrella of management. Wouldn't you say that?
Yes. It would be a simple question, but
okay. Well, go ahead, jump in if you want to add more to it.
No, I mean, I guess I was just thinking that property management. Gosh, it covers so many aspects. I mean, it covers so many aspects. I mean, from the bookkeeping to the marketing to dealing with the tenants, getting the tenants in. What kind of property management software are you going to use to collect the rents, then the evictions, and then the cleanup. And then after you evict them and you clean it up, then it starts back over. You know what I mean? So you really just have to kind of have a holistic view of what is involved with owning real estate.
But to the excuse me, to the viewers that only have 1 or 2 properties, they do everything. I mean, you're not going to hire somebody necessarily to a full-time or put someone on staff for 1 or 2 properties. But
I do want to throw in. I don't remember the guy's name. I don't know if you do, but I remember someone we met. And he had a strategy. His strategy was to buy a property. He bought it. I felt like at a very good deal. And then he would turn it over to a property management company. And that was it. And then he would go and buy another one and just give it to them. And he would buy another one. So he was very successful at that. I mean, he made it work because he didn't get bogged down with the property management. He was willing to basically probably give up all of his cash flow, or at least the majority of it, for the greater good of ramping up his portfolio and buying multiple properties. And I thought that was actually kind of interesting because most of the people that we run into, they say, well, I need the cash flow. I can't pay a manager, I can't have a partner or whatnot, so I've got to do it all myself. It's got to be me, me, me. And so, but this guy, I was like, well, he's giving up his monthly cash flow. Intentionally.
Right.
So
he didn't have to bother with it.
All he had to focus on was buying properties. And I mean, I remember when I met him and I heard his story, I was like, it's not a bad idea. I mean, for him. I mean, for him.
Well, I don't know the person you're talking about, but, I'm wondering if this was like before, 2006, 2005, where it might have been an appreciation play. Was it an appreciation play or not? Versus owning the asset, because a lot of people. I
think he was a buy and hold guy. I think I don't.
Yeah, because I know some of the people that they're willing to forego cash flow. I mean, heck, what are you talking about? In California, I mean, I had there's a school of thought that negative cash flow is okay.
Right, because you can sell for the appreciation.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, we all know that that's probably not going to work too well, at least in the here and now, as we talk about. Cash flow does kind of matter. So I personally feel like I don't have to do every little thing on management, but I like to keep my fingers on it.
Yeah, even if you decide to hire a property management company, it's a good idea. I mean, if you're if you just have 1 or 2 houses, then you can probably get away with maybe not knowing, a whole lot about the whole business. But if you plan on really doing this seriously and having a portfolio, you need to at least have a pulse on every aspect of it, so that if you need to step in, or whoever you are hiring, and let me say this too, if you hire a property management company, you need to remember that they work for you. You can fire them anytime. No questions asked. I mean, just don't. If they're not looking out for your best interest, don't put up with it. That's kind of a little side note, but but you're going to have to oversee the contractor. You're going to have to oversee, the bookkeeper. And even though you may not, know how to fix a toilet, but you need to make sure that he fixes the toilet the way you want him to fix it.
And you don't get charged extravagantly for that service.
Right. I mean, for example, we've tried to hire some contractors before, and some contractors, they like to fix up everything all nice and pretty and perfect.
They want to go all the way. Even when you tell them, please, you don't want to do that. We're not going to pay for that.
Yeah. I mean, they want to give you a bill for $4,500 for something, and you're like, well, I was looking to spend more like $600 or $800, and you're thinking, how is that drastic of a difference? And we have been fortunate enough to, we have a contractor who he understands our mindset, and this is what when you interview people, he understands that, this is a rental house. We're not like trying to be slumlords, but look, we can't go all the way,
Right. Well, if you looking back in 10 years, there's been a lot of trial and error. I mean, we've hired people, we've cycled out, but that's, when you get to a larger scale. Now, I'm gonna share with our viewers that I sort of have a negative bias of most property management companies, at least as far as single family houses go. I'm not talking about the commercial, because I think that's a whole different arena. But when you're dealing with a single family house business, I tend to find, again, this is a broad generality, all right? There's exceptions to it. I find that the people that are in the business, they're not necessarily well informed, they're kind of low pay, they've been beat up. There's no particular incentive for them to do a real good job.
Well, you have to figure
they don't feel any of the vacancies.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
they're not creative.
You're paying the vacancies, so not them. So keep that in mind.
And so, and I tend to think that they're going to do whatever's convenient for them. They're not necessarily going to hire somebody at the best bang for the buck like we would.
Right.
How do you agree with me, or do you disagree, or do you think I have a negative bias?
I think I do. I mean, I've talked to a few people, and they've told me some of their repair bills, of something that they would do, and I would just think it was outrageous. I'm thinking, that seems very high, but then when I think about from the property management standpoint, the easiest thing for them to do is to call, kind of the high-end people. I mean, they come out Johnny on the spot because they're getting paid. So they call up, the high-end heat and air company, go fix this heat and air bill, and they just take the bill and, give it to you, and here it is. Versus, what incentive do they have to shop around or to work with, maybe some one- and two-man shows companies that can, without a lot of overhead, to save you some money. So, there again, there are exceptions to every rule, but I have seen some repair bills that I have just thought were just outrageous.
Yeah, but as I was thinking, even with all these negatives that we talk about, I still think that there's still a group of people, a small group of people, they have no stomach being in the business. I mean, they want to buy the property, but they can't face the tenants. They don't get in any way, shape, or form how they think. I mean, there's a big difference with necessarily agreeing with them versus trying to get in their head how they think, right?
Yeah.
And if they can't confront them and they won't evict them, I mean, they just have no stomach for them. And you kind of wonder, why are they even in this business? But for them, I just think that there's just no hope. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't at least welcome some part of the real estate business and you just want to own the houses, it's just going to be a tough road. I mean, you've got to somewhat, accept and be willing to be the person that it's going to take to possibly own, a multi-million-dollar portfolio or several houses. And it's just, if you're not sleeping at night and you can't deal with, if you can't even deal with the property manager that's giving you bad news or is kind of making you do stuff, then how are you gonna, if you fire them or you step up to do it, how are you gonna deal with the contractors and the tenants? So that's definitely something to think about.
There are people like that. Now, if you're a viewer, I mean, you're going to know what your personality is like. And so the whole point of this conversation is not necessarily tell you what you should do, but, we call ourselves the TurnKey Investors as far as, our little branding. And so we're just sharing with you sort of our views of how we view it. And it's up to you to decide what you think is appropriate to you. Now, there is one thing I do want to add. See, I'm a big proponent in working as a team. Okay, I definitely am not. It doesn't mean that I won't go solo. I mean, if worse comes to worse, there's nobody help you. You left me.
Right.
We decided we're going to get a divorce and we're not going to be partners anymore.
You can do it.
And Martha, for some reason I can't afford her, or she decides she's going to quit on me because she hates my guts or whatever. I mean, I don't like it, but I can dig in there from head to toe.
Right.
And that is what gives me the confidence of whether managing one house, 10 houses, 20 houses, or 30 houses.
Right.
Because I have done it. I grew the portfolio, and I was involved. But once we found, as you say, once we found a good contractor, you can step back.
Right.
You can kind of step back, let them do their jobs. There's a little bit of trust. But that's what works for me. You know, you get involved a little bit first, then you step back, and then you kind of oversee it.
Yeah, the last place you want to be is dependent on a property manager who you may feel is not doing a good job, but you
don't know anything about it. They could be lying to you.
Right, or you don't know anything about the business. You're like, well, if I fire them, now I've gotten 10 houses. Well, if I fire them, I'm going to be dead in the water. That's not where you want to be. So even if you hand some over to the property manager, be involved. Maybe hold 1 or 2 houses back and manage them yourself. There's nobody says that you can't. If you have 10, you can give 8 to them, and you manage 2. So.
Now, just shifting gears a little bit, since we've got a little bit more time on this video, you know, I've thought about, you know, when I kicked around, I don't think I will ever do it, but I mean, I will never say never, you know, but I don't foresee myself ever doing it. But I do feel like that if I ever wanted to put my mind on it, I could, you know, form a property management company. And I do have like certain strategies already in mind based on what we do. And one of the things that I would share with anybody, and I think you would agree with me, is don't hire people that are fundamentally pro-tenants.
Yes.
You don't need somebody within your employ that's going to be fighting the other, arguing the other side. And I'm not saying to be unfair. That's not what we're getting at. We're not talking about bullying a tenant or you know, that sort of taking advantage of them. But what I am saying is, look,
it's a mindset.
It is a mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, look, you got to pay your bills. You got duties to fulfill, and if you don't, there is going to be a consequence. You can't have somebody within the team saying, well, you know, you don't want to do this and that because they feel sorry for them. There's a sympathy factor.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've dealt with that. We've had people in our office who have been, you know, kind of pro-tenant, whether it's the way they write a letter. We've had certain contractors who, you know, we find when we leave the job site, you know, the contractor says, well, it really needs to be this way, or if I were you, you know, I would.
They undermine what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of, you know, that's a good term, they undermine you. And you can't have that. The people who work for you, the people who you're paying, you need to make sure they're on your team and they speak on your behalf. Or I've actually told some contractors, don't speak at all. You know, if I give them a list. I give a list.
Don't get involved, right?
I give them a list. I'll list it 1 through 10. I type it out all real nice and neat, and I say, you do these 10 things, and that's it. If you do anything above this that the tenant asks you to do, you just did it for free.
Right.
You know.
Now, as we wind down on this video, there is one thing I'm going to touch on: the whole eviction issue. All right, and now the eviction is a whole. You know, it could be a whole episode in itself, okay? But what I want to talk about is philosophically. There are people that don't have the stomach to evict because they will feel, oh, they're going to be homeless and all that. But the truth of the matter is, most people will never let themselves be homeless. They always got somewhere to go.
Somewhere to go.
They always have somewhere to go. But people buy into this nonsense.
They do. I mean,
and they got the kids and this and that. They got nowhere to go and all this stuff.
And don't think that court is like. Don't be scared to go to court. I mean, I've been dozens of times. Both Matt and I've been dozens of times evicting people, and you will find that the judge typically will make it as kind of easy as possible for everyone. I mean, there's not a whole lot really you have to do. I mean, obviously you need to show up, have your facts, know your story, you know, have everything together. But don't think you have to be an attorney. Don't think you would. I'm going to have to go in and argue my case, because typically that's not it. You present the facts. The judge does, you know, the majority of it for you. And so don't be scared to go to court and stand for what's right. I mean, don't let somebody just run you over. I mean, file the papers. You know, get in the courtroom and don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, I think that there are just too many. You know, that's a little aspect of property management that seems to get people in a tizzy.
And you're right; they will not be homeless. They will not be on the street. I guarantee.
Yeah, even if they have kids and all. I mean, I don't know. You know, people's will to survive, and self-preservation is very high.
Yes.
And so don't fall into that trap.
No.
So anyway, regarding so Wes, are you going to take on, if anybody wants to work with you in property management, what are you going to say? Aren't you going to be customer service saying, welcome, take me, I will accept everybody?
No, that's one good thing about being your own business owner, being, you know, kind of outside, is we've said it before. I mean, the customer is not always right. I mean, and I'm not talking
we are in a business where the customer's always right. And I've said that.
Right,
exactly.
And not to say that the customer being the investor who wants me to manage their property, I'm not calling them the customer that's never right. But, but I mean, what can I say? I mean, I love managing property, it really doesn't feel like work to me. Yes, it's because it's properties that I own. Yes, I make a small amount of income through other people's property. So if it's a good working relationship, if I feel like that me and the person, we really get it and we're going to gel together, then I can put them into the stream, and it's not a whole lot of extra work for me. And if I feel like it works for them, then it's great. I'd love to work with them. But if I feel like that philosophically, they're just going to be like nitpicking me for every dime that I spend, or they're going to be telling me how much the rent should be, and and I've got my portfolio and they've got 2 houses, then it just doesn't work.
Well, there's nothing more annoying than dealing with a dumb investor, or whatever you want to call it, dumb property owner. I mean,
when I go into an area to where I don't know anything about, I sit back and I say, you know what, I'm hiring you to do this, and I'm going to trust your judgment, and and things like that. So when people come for me to manage their houses, I want them to. They're more than welcome to be involved, but we've got to have a good working relationship.
Well, the thing about it is, if they don't fundamentally trust big picture what you're doing, they really shouldn't be working with you at all.
No.
They need to find like their own clerical person to push around, or a contract where you can, they'll just bark to your marching orders.
Yeah.
You have to want to work with a manager, and that manager has to philosophically be congruent with the owner. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of the TurnKey Investor Show, and I'm listening us to discuss whether or not you should manage your own properties and some of the issues involved. And we'll hope to see you in our next episode. Thank you.